Hello everyone, Jennifer Maker here. It's a beautiful day to make some cute and clever wine tumblers, just like this. But how did I get the design to continue around the curved bottom, you ask? You are going to love this technique, and I will show you exactly how I did it using free software, Sublimation ink, and a little preparation. These sublimated wine tumblers are super cute, and I'm really excited to show you how to make them. Now you'll notice that this wine tumbler has curved sides, which are different from the straight sides on a skinny tumbler or even tapered tumblers that we've already done, right? Now sublimating a skinny tumbler is pretty easy because the print just wraps right around it, no problem. Wrapping a print around a tapered tumbler takes a little more work, but it's still not too difficult. It's more challenging to wrap a print around the curved end of a wine tumbler, but don't worry because I'm going to guide you through every step. In fact, I'm going to show you 2 ways to sublimate on curved wine tumblers. First, I'll show you a special way to cut your sublimation print and then wrap it around your entire curved wine tumbler. This is so cool. This works best when the design has vertical elements in the lower half, or if it's almost textured, because then that helps the seams blend in. Then we'll wrap a design on just the top half of the tumbler where the sides are still straight. It's a great option if you want to decorate most of a curved tumbler without tackling lots of seams to add color to the bottom. Now, like I said, preparing these wine tumblers for sublimation can be a little challenging, but I am confident that you'll be ready to make your own after watching this tutorial. Now you will need some basic sublimation supplies for this project, including a white sublimation ready wine tumbler, a sublimation printer or a printer with sublimation ink in it, sublimation paper, and heat resistant tape. Now, I've tried several different kinds of tape for sublimation, and I usually recommend the blue tape from Cricut because it works well and doesn't leave marks behind. And some brands of yellow tape can leave a yellow mark, right? We've done tests together, right? But I found that a skinnier, thinner tape that is more stretchy really helped mold the printed design to the curved tumbler. So just for this project, I recommend this specific brand of thin yellow heat-resistant tape, which I'm linking in the materials list for you. It's narrower than the Cricut brand heat-resistant tape, so it's easier to use on the pieces that we'll be putting together. And if you take a piece and try to stretch it, the yellow tape stretches and feels more flexible than the blue Cricut tape. And that's going to be really important when we get to taping the full coverage design. And of course, we need ways to apply the heat. I'm using a dedicated sublimation convection oven for this project. I've got a full list of the tools and supplies, plus links on where to find them in my materials list. It's over on my blog at jennifermaker.com/610. So let me first show you how to get these free designs because they're super fun and cute, and then we'll start wrapping our own wine tumblers. Step 1. Get my free wine tumbler wrap designs. First, download the free designs at jennifermaker.com/610. You can either download right from that link by saving the project, or download from my entire free design collection. To find it, look for Libraries in the red bar at the top, and then click either Get a Password if you don't yet have one, or click Enter the library. Search the page for design number 610 and click the link to download the designs. If you're not sure how to download zip files, go to jennifermaker.com/svgs because the steps are similar for PNG files and Google Docs. In the PNG folder, there are 4 cute and clever sublimation designs. A full wrap that says, "But first, wine," a half wrap that says, "Sip sip hooray," a full wrap that says, "May contain wine," and a half wrap that says, "Love the wine you're with." I'm going to show you how to prepare and sublimate a full wrap, and then how working with the half wrap is different. Option 1. Full wine tumbler wrap design. Step 2. Prepare your full wrap design. First, we need to find the size for our design. Use a loop tape measure to find your tumbler circumference, which is the measurement around the cup in the straight-walled section. That's the top half, in this case, right? To use a loop tape measure, feed the small edge through the window like a belt, and then put it around the tumbler. Carefully pull the tape's edges away from each other, keeping it straight and making the tape tight. The numbers at the arrows are your circumference. We need the height too, so if you're using a loop tape measure, undo it, and then measure from top to bottom, but do not include any area without the sublimation coating, like a metal lip. If you're using the tumblers listed in my material list, they are 4.57 inches tall and 10 inches around. You need to add a little extra to cover the white area, so add 0.5 inches to your height and add 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch to the circumference to allow for a very slight overlap at the seam. If you add 1/16 of an inch, that's 0.0625, and if you add 1/8 of an inch, that's 0.125. I'm going to make my full-size wine tumbler wrap design 10.125 inches wide and 5.07 inches tall. Now let's use Google Docs to prepare the design at this size. Open Google Docs in the Google Chrome web browser on your computer. If you don't have a Google account, you can get one for free at jennifermaker.com/Google Docs. In the top left corner of the screen, click Blank Document. Go to the File menu and select Page Setup. In the menu that appears, click the circle next to Landscape so the page will better match the tumbler's shape. Change all of the margins to 0 so that we can use as much of the page as possible. And finally, change your paper size to match your sublimation paper. I'm using 8.5 inch by 11 inch paper, which is letter size. And then click OK to apply the settings. To add the sublimation design, click the Insert menu at the top of the screen and click Image and then select Upload from Computer. Click on the sublimation image you want to use. Make sure to pick a full wrap design if you want to make a full wrap tumbler. And then click Open to add the design to the page. To resize the image, click on the design and select Image Options. Select Size and Rotation, and keep the Lock Aspect Ratio box checked to maintain the design's proportions, and change the width field to the measurement you recorded for the tumbler's circumference, including the addition for the seam overlap. The height will automatically adjust proportionately. For the full wrap, I made my design 10.125 inches by 5.07 inches, but Google Docs may round the width up to 10.13 inches, which is totally fine. Click the image and select the wrap text icon from the menu that appears below it. Drag the image to the center of your page, as that ensures it won't get cut off and you have plenty of space to trim the edges. Click the area that says Untitled Document at the top and type a name for the file. The design is now ready to print. Go to the File menu and choose Print. Select your sublimation printer under Destination. Click the arrow beside More Settings and select Print using System Dialog. Your print menu may look different than mine. Just make sure the sublimation printer you have is selected, that you mirror the print, and select the highest quality matte paper setting. I recommend using a thinner weight paper for the full wrap, like 105 gram paper. It's easy to tell the weights apart. The 105 gram paper has the green A sub logo on the back, and it's gray for the heavier 125 gram paper. Check the paper's packaging on how to load the paper and then put it into your printer. And then click Print. Let your design print, then allow it to dry before handling it, as it can smear if you pick it up too quickly. The printed design will look a little light, which is totally normal for sublimation. It will be bright and vibrant once it's sublimated. Step 3. Sublimate your full wine tumbler wrap. Now make sure you have a window open and a fan running to improve ventilation before sublimating. Clean the wine tumbler with a lint-free cloth or coffee filter and a little bit of rubbing alcohol. This will remove any dust and oils from the surface, which allows for a better transfer. You can use scissors to trim the sublimation print, but a paper trimmer will be easier. There's a special way to trim the design so that there isn't a gap or seam when we wrap the design around the tumbler. So if you're going to use a trimmer like I am, pull out the guide extension on your paper trimmer and place the design face up so the right edge of the ink is along the cutting line, like this. Press the paper up against the top guide to make sure the cut will be straight. Hold the paper in place and lower the fold-down ruler with the blade onto your material. You can press down on the ruler to keep the material in position, but don't get too close to the blade. Now use your other hand to press and drag down on the blade. Draw it down in a straight line with a smooth motion. Lift the ruler up and remove the sublimation print. Then place the print face down. We want to have a slight overlap at the seam, but doubling the ink can create a darker section in your sublimated design. So to avoid this, add a strip of thin, heat-resistant tape straight along the other short edge so that about 1/4 inch of the design's ink is overlapped. Now flip the sublimation print face up and follow the same steps to trim the white paper away from the second short edge that you just taped. Finally, trim the white paper away from the top and bottom edges. Next, place the sublimation print face down with a design at the top. If you don't have the design oriented correctly, you'll cut into it in the next step, so be careful here. Use a ruler and a pencil to mark 2 inches up from the bottom edge at a few spots. Then lightly draw a horizontal line all the way across the paper connecting them. Start at one side along the bottom edge of the paper and make small, light pencil marks every 1/2 inch. If you're using a different heat-resistant tape than I am, make sure your marks are slightly wider apart than the width of your tape. Add marks every 1/2 inch along the horizontal pencil line too. Use your ruler to connect each set of the top and bottom marks with a straight vertical line. Now use a sharp pair of scissors to cut from the bottom edge up to the horizontal line at every 1/2 inch mark. Don't cut any higher than the horizontal line or you risk interfering with the design. Once all your cuts are done, place the wine tumbler on your work surface with the opening at the top. Make sure the print is oriented correctly with the cut pieces toward the bottom and wrap it around the tumbler so the ink touches the surface. Be super careful not to crease or tear the cut pieces because that can damage the finished result. Where the paper's edges overlap, place the taped edge on the tumbler and the untaped edge on top. Double check that the tape doesn't extend past the paper and trim it if it does, or it will keep some ink from transferring. Gently lay the tumbler on its side with the seam up. Be careful not to let the print shift at all. Our next goal is to secure the print to the tumbler as tightly as possible. If there are any gaps between the surface and the design, you might get white spots or other defects in the final result. Using pinchers can help hold everything in place. Place a piece of heat-resistant tape securely on the outside edge, but don't let it touch the paper on either side of the seam yet. Use one hand to hold the lower layer tight against the tumbler and pull the loose section of tape as tight as possible. Then press it in place on the lower layer. To check if it's tight enough, try to press hard on either side of the paper and smooth them toward the tape seam. If anything ripples or comes away from the tumbler, remove your tape and try again. Once the paper is secure, add tape to cover the seam vertically, allowing some to extend past the top edge and about 1/4 inch below the horizontal line. With your thumb on the adhered section, pull the extra tape tightly over the edge and secure it inside the tumbler. You need to pull the tape to press the design tight against the tumbler, but don't pull so hard that the rest of the wrap shifts on the cup. Use a scraper or your fingernail to burnish the seams thoroughly so that there are no bubbles or creases, and the seam is pressed down against the tumbler as much as possible. Rotate the tumbler so that the taped seam is down and add another piece of tape directly across from it. Since we'll need to tug the tab sections to secure them, adding the second anchor point at the top edge will keep the wrap from pulling off the tumbler. Place the tumbler with the opening at the top. Think of it like a compass and place the original seam in the north direction and the second at south. Add tape the same way at the east and west spots. Then fill in the intermediary directions like northeast until the entire top rim is secured. Now for the tabs. Start by laying the tumbler on its side. This is the key to shaping the design along the curve. We'll do this one at a time, taping every other tab. Starting with the tab at the taped seam, smooth the paper down toward the tumbler's bottom so it is tight against the surface, and use a small piece of heat-resistant tape to secure it to the base. The tape can go onto the silver disc at the bottom, but don't go beyond it and back onto the sublimation surface. If you have a cradle, you can put your tumbler in it to help keep it still while you do this. Use a scraper or your fingernail to burnish the tape to the tumbler and into the indent on the bottom. Work out all of the air pockets to get a perfect transfer. Do this for every other tab all the way around the tumbler. This is when that yellow tape I told you about really helped in my testing because it stretches nicely without bunching up. When you're back at the beginning, place a piece of tape over each side of the first unsecured tab and extend them beyond the edge. Use one hand to pull the tape toward the tumbler's bottom and your other thumb to press the paper and tape tight against the surface until the tape touches the blank. The tape will slightly overlap the previously secured tabs. Again, since it's thinner than the other heat-resistant tape I tried, the overlapped areas won't make the heat inconsistent. Burnish the paper and tape from the center on either side and then down to the bottom. We want to hide the seams as much as possible, which is more challenging on a curved surface and with overlapping sections. If there are any ripples, the seams will be more noticeable. Finishing by smoothing from the main design area off to the bottom, make sure any issues are on the undecorated area. Work your way around the tumbler, taping down and burnishing each of the remaining tabs. Without cutting the tape off the roll, secure its leading end to the design, pulling it away from the seam on the drawn horizontal line. Hold the tumbler in place and pull the tape roll to keep it taut. Remember, this is why we're using stretchy tape. Roll the tumbler while keeping the tape taut to go all the way around the cup. When you get back to the beginning, angle the tape roll to slightly overlap the last length but cover more of the design below it as you continue around the tumbler. This takes a good amount of tape, but it adds pressure in a different angle than the tabbed pieces, so you're more likely to smooth out any bubbles and get an even transfer. When you reach the flat base, cut the tape from the roll. Starting at the seam, burnish the new tape horizontally all the way around, and then carefully up and down. Now open up a shrink wrap sleeve and pull it over your tumbler. If the tube is 10 inches long, it can be cut in half to 5 inches in height to fit the tumbler better. Some sublimation tumblers come with shrink wrap sleeves, but not all do. If you order them separately, be sure they're the right size to easily fit your tumbler's width. Put on your heat-resistant gloves and set a heat-safe item like a pressing pad nearby. Use your heat gun on low setting to slowly heat the wrap to conform to the tumbler. Start with the straight edges and then work on the curve and finally the bottom. Make sure most of the wrinkles are smooth, but don't make it too tight or it will pull apart in the convection oven. For added security, you can use a silicone band to keep the top edge in place. Now the tumbler will be warm, so set it on the pressing pad when you're done. Now I suggest you place a silicone baking mat onto the sublimation oven's wire tray to keep the tumbler from rolling later on. Put an oven thermometer right in the center to make sure the temperature is correct too. Now heat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 191 degrees Celsius. When the convection oven is at the right temperature, put on your heat-resistant gloves and place the tumbler on its side on the baking mat. Heat the prepared tumbler in the oven for 6 minutes, giving it a quarter turn every minute and a half to even out the heat. When the time is up, keep your heat-safe gloves on and remove the tumbler from the oven, placing it on a heat-safe surface to cool for a few minutes. And then remove the wrap, tape, and design while the tumbler is still slightly warm. Option number 2, half wine tumbler design wrap. Step 1, get a half wrap design. Follow the steps from earlier in this video to get my free tumbler wraps. Step 2, prepare your half wine tumbler wrap design. Follow the preparation and printing process from the full wrap tutorial, but be sure to select the PNG that has white at the bottom and resize it to 10.125 inches by 3.06 inches to fit just the upper section of the wine tumblers. That's, of course, assuming you're using the same wine tumblers that I am. If not, be sure to measure. I used heavier 125 gram paper since we don't need to fit the curved area. Step 3, sublimate your half wine tumbler design wrap. Follow the same steps in the full wrap tutorial to trim the top and side edges away from your design, including adding the heat-resistant tape to one side. For the bottom edge, trim the design to 3 inches tall, leaving some white space. The design will stay on the flat side, so you don't have to worry about the tumbler's curve. Place the tumbler on your work surface with the opening at the top. Make sure the print is correctly oriented and wrap it around the cup so the ink touches the surface. Where the edges touch, make sure the overlap is on top of the edge with the tape and does not extend past the tape. Hold the wrapped print in place and gently tap the tumbler on the table from the top. This will help straighten out the design and seam. Don't let the print shift, and then gently lay the tumbler on its side with the seam up. Our next goal is to secure the print to the tumbler as tightly as possible. If there are gaps between the surface and design, you might get white spots or other defects in the final result. Using pinchers can help hold everything in place. Place a piece of heat-resistant tape securely on the outside edge, but don't let it touch the paper on the other side of the seam yet. Use one hand to hold the lower layer of the design tight against the tumbler. Pull the loose section of tape as tight as possible, then press it in place on the lower layer. To check if the paper is tight enough, try to press hard on the other edge of paper and smooth them toward the tape seam. If anything ripples or comes away from the tumbler, remove your tape and try again. Once the paper is secure, add tape to cover the seam vertically, allowing some to extend past the edges on the top and bottom of the design. With your thumb on the adhered tape, pull the extra tape as hard as you can over the edge and secure it inside the tumbler. And then use a scraper or your fingernail to burnish the seam thoroughly. Now, just like before, I want you to think of the tumbler's opening like a compass and place the original seam in the north direction. And then place tape at the south location, letting it extend past the edge. Keep your thumb on the taped paper and pull the extra tape tightly, securing it to the tumbler's inner surface. Smooth the tape with a scraper to remove any air pockets, and then repeat for the east and west points. And then fill in the intermediary directions like northeast until the entire top rim is secured. And then secure the bottom edge of the design to the tumbler by wrapping one long piece of tape over the entire edge around the circumference. This will keep the design in place and make it easier to slide on the shrink wrap sleeve later. And now just follow the same steps from the full wine tumbler wrap sublimation process to finish preparing and heating the half wrap version. Step 4, show it off. And here are my finished full and half wine tumbler wraps. Didn't these turn out so cool? Step 5, customize it. Would you like to learn how to customize this sublimation design? You can learn how through a special program called Advance with Jennifer Maker over at jennifermaker.com/advance. In my Advance workshop, I'll show you how to use free tools to add your own touch to a sublimation design. We'll learn how to size PNGs for a 3D blank, where to place text to fit the right spot, and where to get tons of fun typefaces. The Advanced program helps to advance your crafting skills by teaching you how to make these popular designs unique and special through tutorials and templates, as well as give you advanced access to my vast library of designs, projects, and resources. Now, I may or may not be accepting new members into the Advanced program at the time you see this, but if you're interested, go to jennifermaker.com/advance to learn more and see how it all works. Wow, didn't these tumblers turn out so nicely? They took some extra work, sure, but I think it was so worth the end result. These tumblers can make great gifts. Pair one or two with a bottle of wine and a corkscrew, and you've got a lovely gift for many occasions, like a housewarming, a new job, or a wedding. Now, to clean your finished tumblers, hand wash with gentle soap, warm water, and a soft cloth. Allow your wash tumbler to air dry. And if you want to learn how to create other sublimation designs to really customize your wine tumblers, like my initials here, because getting those initials in just the right spot is tricky, right? Go to jennifermaker.com/advanced to learn about the Advance with Jennifer Maker program. And are you looking for ways to expand your sublimation projects? I love using my Cricut cutting machine to cut templates and create my own designs to fit the perfect shape. If you're interested in using a cutting machine, I do regular giveaways over at jennifermaker.com/Cricut giveaway. Get all the details and enter for your chance to win. And if you have any sublimation related questions that I can help you with, please let me know. Just leave your question below this video or ask over in our awesome sublimation group at jennifermaker.com/sublimation group. And I would love it if you would share a photo of your finished wine tumblers with us over in our group. Seriously, it is awesome and I love seeing everything you create. And my team does too. And that's it for today. Until next time, this is Jennifer Maker reminding you to craft a life you love.